Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my Shazam, Fury of the Gods, full breakdown and Easter eggs for the entire movie. There were a bunch of references, so if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. Careful for spoilers for the movie. If you haven't seen it yet, we'll just start at the beginning, work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs, WTF moments, and obviously the post-credit scenes. The title Fury of the Gods is a reference to the gods that they got their powers from. They explain the origin of Shazam's powers. There's a couple of changes from the comics with the whole backstory, but essentially the movie was designed to be in the DCEU. Like when they were filming it, it was still the DCEU. James Gunn wasn't hired and didn't do the big DC Studios reboot, or didn't plan to do it until way later in the post-production process. So there were a couple minor changes and a couple characters that they did not wind up including that they'd originally planned on doing. Like originally there were going to be more Justice League characters like Superman, Batman, in addition to Wonder Woman. And originally they tried to get The Rock to cameo as Black Adam to have a Shazam versus Black Adam type of scene during the movie, but he declined to do that. That was before his big dust up with the studio and James Gunn was hired, and then he had a big falling out with Warner Brothers and basically has left DC. Like he will not come back as Black Adam.
Guys, there's 6 of us and there's 7 thrones. Who's that for?
Well, whoever it is, I'm gonna love them no matter what, because they're an automatic part of the family.
In general, the movie's meant to pick up about 2 years after the end of the last movie, where Billy is about to turn 18 and become an adult according to the law of the United States. The way they explain the powers of Shazam in the movie is that a long time ago, the wizard created the Staff of Atlas for the Greek titan Atlas, who was the most powerful god at the time, more powerful than Zeus, and it's meant to flow with real-world Greek mythology, where the titans came before the younger gods. Zeus defeated the titans. It sounds like what happened is Zeus helped the wizard Shazam, and some of the other gods helped the wizard take down Atlas and take his staff and his powers. But the idea is that he forged the Staff of Atlas from the wood, from the Tree of Life, and gave that to Atlas as a gift, and Atlas used that to either take or bestow different god powers on different lesser gods. A lot of you asking, does this change the backstory from the Wonder Woman movie about what happened to the Greek gods? Because during that they have a prologue where they explain that Ares rebelled against the other gods like Zeus, killed most of them, and Zeus sacrificed himself to stop Ares temporarily, while also creating the enchantment on Themyscira, preventing anyone from finding it. Even Wonder Woman. So the funny thing is, they haven't really gotten into this in the movies yet, but Zack Snyder was going to deal with it during the Justice League sequels when he was still doing a Justice League trilogy, is the magic that Zeus put on Themyscira is so powerful that even Wonder Woman can't find her way back to Themyscira unless someone inside Themyscira tells her how to get there, like fires an arrow out of Themyscira. But at some point, Zeus and the other gods helped the wizard Shazam take down Atlas. He took his staff, drained all of his power from it, and then created a magical barrier that prevented anyone from the god realm entering the regular dimension. And the way they explain this, they go by the Grant Morrison multiversity explanation behind the multiverse, where the god realm is just another dimension within the multiverse. The whole idea is that during the first Shazam movie, they explained that when Billy broke the staff, that brought down the enchantment protecting the main dimension from the god realm, allowing the sisters back in. So if it wasn't clear, the wizard didn't kill all other gods. Some of them were killed by other gods like Ares, or they used up the rest of their power and wound up growing old and dying that way. The whole idea is that up to the end of the movie, when they bring magic back to the god realm, up to that point, there had been no more magic there, or very little magic, so most of the gods had died off. That's why they say at the end of the movie that there is no more spark of divinity out there, and Wonder Woman shows up and is like, yeah, I have a slight spark of a god left in me because my father was Zeus. That's also meant to explain where she gets her power from, because she has part of Zeus's power. But they changed the opening titles, and now they're meant to be a reference to the rock that forms the god's castle, the god realm, all the powers that Hespera has, turning all the humans into rock. Also just the ancient nature of a lot of the Greek artifacts that you see a reference to the ancient nature of the Greek gods. But the actual opening scene takes place at the Greek Acropolis, nearby the History Museum. You see where Hespera, Calypso come to take the staff of Atlas, their father. Played by Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu. They explained the reason why the staff wound up there because after the events of the first movie, when Billy broke the staff, he just threw it in the trash, and it wound up in the Philly garbage dump where it broke 3 trash compactors. Once the authorities found it, they discovered that it was a Greek artifact, so the nation of Greece claimed it and they sent it into a Greek museum. That's why at the end of the movie, they have that joke where the wizard comes back saying that he's going to go on a tour of the world just enjoying himself because he's been in prison for so long, but he's going to keep the staff with him for safekeeping because he's pretty sure that Billy would probably do something stupid with it again. The three daughters of the Titan Atlas were a thing in real-world Greek mythology, but the backstory was a little bit different. They were called the Hesperides, their powers were a little bit different, and there was a garden of golden apples and a tree of life, but it was the garden of the Hesperides. Like the garden belonged to the three sisters where the tree and the apples grew. The actual tree itself had been a gift from Zeus to Hera. The dragon Ladon was also from real-world Greek mythology, and it did exactly what they said in the movie. It guarded the garden. The actual garden and the golden apples were featured during the 10 labors of Hercules too. One of his challenges was to steal one of the golden apples from the garden. When you enter the museum, there's a giant statue of Atlas, which Hespera repurposes with her magic to turn everyone into stone, which is meant to be a twist on the whole idea that all these ancient Greek artifacts were on display, and now the humans are on display. The sisters are dressed like hoplites. That's what wealthier Greek soldiers were called because they wore armor that they provided themselves, so only the wealthier people in Greece could become hoplites. Armor like that during that era was very expensive. You probably recognize the tour guide, Rizwan Manji, who was just in Peacemaker Season 1 as a character named Jamil. That isn't meant to be the same person, so I guess you could say it's a long-lost twin, maybe? The sisters in general are meant to be between 6,000 and 10,000 years old, maybe a little bit older than that, but it goes back to a little before that Darkseid War flashback, which was about 10,000 years ago. By that time, the wizard had already defeated the Greek titan Atlas. You also remember that Black Adam is from about 5,000 years ago. Wonder Woman is also about 5,000 years. So when Black Adam was getting his powers in Kahndaq, Wonder Woman was being born. That makes Anthea about 1,000 years older than Wonder Woman. They have a couple jokes about that during the movie, like, you look super good for being so old. After they kill everyone in the museum, they set up the Shazam reveal with the joke about the wizard choosing the smartest, most cunning, powerful champion possible. We have to watch out, cutting to Billy in child therapy with PJ Byrne, who plays his therapist. You probably recognize him from a bunch of other things. He's also on The Boys TV show right now. And Billy feels like a fraud, making a whole bunch of Justice League references, like he talks about Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Aquaman, Cyborg. Like The Flash is the other guy with the red costume with the lightning bolt on it, and he's way better than he is. If you look around the doctor's office here too, there's a ton of DC Easter eggs. Probably the biggest WTF is the Green Lantern Easter egg in the background, but like there are a bunch of Wonder Woman plushies. There's an S for Starro in the background here, referencing the events of the Suicide Squad movie. There's Titano, the super ape from the Superman comics that represents the letter T. He was a chimp named Toto that was sent to space during a test flight and was bombarded with cosmic rays that gave him superpowers that Superman fought way back in the classic comics. There's several Wonder Woman plushies, there's Batman plushies, there's a Batman action figure, there's a Flash action figure. But like I said, there's a Green Lantern action figure, meaning that Green Lantern already exists in this continuity, and this is meant to take place in the DCEU. Like, this is the new timeline. Like, the movie takes place around the same time as the events of the Black Adam movie, so that the Shazam League doesn't get caught up in what's happening during the Black Adam movie. Like, they explain why they don't rush over to Kahndaq. You also notice there's an Easter egg for the Annabelle doll from the director's horror movie, the Annabelle movies. Like, he comes from an indie horror background. That's how he came to the Shazam franchise. You notice when he's flying through the city talking about how he's been a lousy superhero the past couple of years, they show you different footage of Freddie Freeman complaining about being hurt by something, and he's wearing another big Easter egg reference t-shirt. It's a Batman and Robin t-shirt, but this time it's an actual bat dressed as Batman and an actual Robin bird dressed as Robin. They also use this scene to recap the events of the first movie, just to remind you about Billy's backstory. The joke about the hostage situation that he has to go to is a video game that he's playing with the others, which is supposed to be practice for them working as a team, saving people. They fail the game, which is a parallel for them in real life, being hated by the city, who call them the Philadelphia Fiascos. They set up Darla's Skittles joke later in the movie, Taste the Rainbow, with the Skittles she surprises Mary Marvel with, leaving them in her pocket so they wind up staining her pants. You notice she's playing with a model unicorn in a mock battle diorama with an army of unicorns, just setting up her army of unicorns later in the movie. Billy is wearing a Goonies t-shirt because that's the whole vibe of the movie in general and their group, Goonies Never Say Die, bunch of kids going on adventures together. Freddie Freeman is wearing a tree t-shirt, which I think is meant to be the White Tree of Gondor from the Lord of the Rings movies, but it's also meant to be a reference to the Tree of Life at the end of the movie. Also, the lightning ring that he's wearing is a reference to all the Elvis Easter eggs in Captain Marvel Jr. In the Golden Age comics, Freddie Freeman's name was Captain Marvel Jr. In the movie, he calls himself Captain Every Powers, which is a reference to Captain Marvel, the original name of the Shazam character in the comics, but they had a big legal problem with Marvel, even though technically I think DC owned the rights to the Captain Marvel name before Marvel did. But in the movie, that's why he calls Billy Captain Every Powers Jr., because that was Freddie Freeman's original name in the comics. And bringing it back around to Elvis, Elvis grew up in real life being a fan of the Captain Marvel Jr. comics and modeled his whole look after him, hair and everything, some of his crazier costumes too. That's also why his TCB pendant, taking care of business, has the lightning bolt on it, and he wears a ring just like that too, which is a reference to Freddie Freeman's lightning ring. Pretty cool finding out that Elvis used to be a comic book nerd. They said at the big Pedro twist where he reveals to the family that he's gay, even though everyone else in the family claims that they've known the whole time, or for at least a long time. They're also watching the Phillies game on TV, which is happening at the stadium, foreshadowing the end of the movie with the battle at Phillies Stadium. When they first activate their powers together, the graffiti on the fence to the right, Torpa and Junidal, is actually a reference to the two schools where director David Sandberg went, and he met his wife, Lotta, who also has a cameo in the movie. She's the nurse that Billy saves on the bridge. She also played Dr. Sivannah's assistant in the first Shazam movie, who he wound up killing. David Sandberg actually plays two different characters in this movie. He has a cameo scene as a random citizen who gets killed by the monsters and carried off. He's also the voice of Mr. Mind in the post-credit scene. The other thing you notice here is that the Mary Marvel actress is now playing both versions of the character, the regular and the powered-up version. They said they did that just because the actress had gotten old enough and it made sense. They also updated all their costumes and reshot the power scene from the first movie when they're talking about what Billy did breaking the staff. Like, they completely reshot that scene with these actors in these costumes. So it's a slight retcon, but you can actually chalk it up to being Billy remembering events and just remembering them slightly differently. They also make it sound like their foster father, Victor, had started to figure out that the kids were the superheroes early in the movie, but Rosa didn't learn until they barge in on them at the end of the movie. Like, have you ever noticed that the superheroes always show up the minute that the kids take off? Back at the Rock of Eternity, you see Freddy hang up a newspaper clipping of all their superhero saves. One of them reads, Lightning Man and Wonder Woman romance, setting up the whole Wonder Woman Billy obsession during the movie and her cameo scene. Like I said, the director also said at one point they were going to have cameos from the entire Justice League like Superman, Batman, but it just caused too many logic problems and practical problems behind the scenes when the big James Gunn reboot announcement happened. So they just decided not to include them, but what they would have done is they would have shown up when the dome goes over the city and tried to pound their way in, like Superman would not have been able to make his way through the barrier. He also said the dome around the city was inspired by the Simpsons movie. You see a wide-shot tour of the Rock of Eternity lair. They've turned it into their little kid's idea of a Batcave with a bunch of video games, toys, all kinds of memorabilia from the Justice League. Like a lot of real-world DC memorabilia, but it's in-universe. Like there's a bunch of merch in the DCEU that's being created because of the Justice League characters, and they're buying it. They do the same thing in the Marvel movies, like there are Captain America comics inside the Marvel universe. So there are references to Batman, logos, all kinds of stuff all over the Rock of Eternity. They even had a Batman mug, and it's Michael Keaton Batman's logo on the mug, so let that twist your brain up. What universe is this happening in? You can blame that on the Flash, the Flashpoint twist in the Flash movie with all the timelines getting crazy. They said at the Mary college storyline with her reading the organic chemistry book, it's all about her trying to get into college because she deferred her enrollment after the first movie because she's already supposed to be in college right now. Later in the movie, you see her wearing the Oxford sweater and in the credits flying off with her powers, just saying that she eventually went to Oxford, but she's going to continue to work with the family. They explain Eugene has been mapping the room of doors, which are meant to be doors to different dimensions, and they just have funny markings on all of them. Like I said, it's based on the Grant Morrison multiversity version of the multiverse. I'm not sure who the spider dog is meant to be a reference to. There's not a spider dog in DC Comics, so this is just meant to be Eugene referring to something that looks kind of like a spider and a dog crossed. One of the doors leads to the Fairyland, which is probably a reference to the Magic Lands, the 7 realms of magic, which are the 7 different dimensions that are all made of pure magic, the place that Mr. Mind is trying to take control of that he references in the post-credit scenes of the first and the second movie. Doing that would basically give him control over all magic in the entire multiverse, all of reality, making him pretty much invincible. When he gets spit out the door by the monster all covered in goo and says, "Do not go in there," that's meant to be an Ace Ventura reference.
Do not go in there.
When Darla brings the kitten back and names it Tawny, that's meant to be a reference to Tawny the tiger from the Shazam comics. You also notice in the background of this scene, there's a stuffed tiger, also another Tawny the tiger reference. Billy starts making more Wonder Woman jokes, talking about her having a secret identity, working a day job. That's a reference to her Diana Prince persona and her actual job, like her real job she has at the Louvre in Paris. Also, the joke about her wearing a ponytail and glasses and no one recognizing her is a reference to the original Wonder Woman TV show, the Diana Prince persona, and a bit of a Superman Clark Kent reference too. Like what, she's gonna put glasses on and no one's gonna recognize her? That'd be ridiculous. Then we find out the three sisters have held the wizard Shazam captive since the end of the last movie. The way he explains that he's still here is that his essence died basically and traveled, and the sisters caught it and captured it and put it in prison here. So he did actually die during the first movie, but him coming back is meant to foreshadow Billy also being able to come back from death. Freddy winds up meeting Anthea, who's pulling a Never Been Kissed at their school, pretending to be a student when really she's a super old person. Freddy's also wearing an Iron Giant t-shirt. It's an amazing movie. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out. But in that, the robot pretends that it is Superman, like it calls itself Superman. Now the Iron Giant, in addition to the Fast and Furious movies, are canon to the DC Universe. When they mention Thundercrack Make-A-Wish, that's a reference to Billy. That's what they call Billy in this universe. And it's a reference to the Superman scene at the end of the first movie where Shazam and Superman have lunch with Freddy while he's in regular form. Diedrich Bader plays his principal, who winds up being killed by the three sisters, so R.I.P., but Diedrich Bader has also been in a bunch of DC TV shows as the voice of Batman. Most notably in Batman Brave and the Bold, and in present day, big coincidence, James Gunn's connected DCEU Batman movie is going to be called Batman Brave and the Bold.
Tell me something, and I need the absolute truth. Do I look fat in this outfit?
They have that funny Billy dream sequence where he fantasizes about going on a date with Wonder Woman, playing it mostly as a joke with the wizard's face winding up on her body because the wizard is speaking to him in his dreams. When he wakes up, the plasma ball blowing up on his desk is meant to give him the idea to do the exact same thing in the dome at the end of the movie, destroying the Tree of Life, Calypso, and the dragon. Zoom in and enhance in the background of their bedroom, you see another Annabelle poster for the director David Sandberg's Annabelle movies. You also notice during this scene too, all over their bedroom, there are pictures of all the Justice League characters: The Flash, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, of course Aquaman, Cyborg. The Iconoclast poster is for a video game, the same one Eugene is wearing earlier in the movie. Behind them on the wall, you see their high school is named Fawcett High School. It's a reference to Fawcett Comics, which was the original comic book publisher of Wiz Comics, where Shazam, the Captain Marvel character, got started. Eventually, DC bought Fawcett, and that's how the Shazam characters became part of the DC universe. They set up the burning violin for later in the movie to use as a twist for an in-universe joke that they still don't understand what it is or how it works, only that it's weird and it's distracting the sisters. But it's actually from the comics. It's a reference to two different things, one in the comics and one in real-world history. During Captain Marvel Adventures Volume 1, number 64, when he was fighting Ogar and Nero, he plays a fiddle spewing fire trying to burn down New York. In real-world history, the Mad Caesar Nero is said to have fiddled during the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD. Pedro winds up showing them the library in the Rock of Eternity, which contains the sum total of all magical and mystical knowledge, mythology, lore, pretty much everything relating to magic. They also set up the joke with them learning about the Shazam acronym and the source of their powers, like, oh, it all stands for an acronym: the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the stamina of Atlas, the power of Zeus, the courage of Achilles, and the speed of Mercury. The joke about the wisdom of Solomon is that it's not about him literally being super smart, it's more about the wisdom in his heart, like emotional smarts. In the comics, it was more of a traditional intelligence kind of power. Originally, it gave him clairvoyance, awareness in battle. It also gave him knowledge of all languages, ancient and modern warfare, and it allowed him to hypnotize people. The other joke here too is that Billy says, the wizard didn't leave me a manual about how all these powers worked. He has no idea how to use his powers, which they pay off later with the Book of Shazam, which is literally an entire history about how his powers work. Like, oh, you probably would have figured this out if you just read the book in the library. One of the other funny things about Shazam too is that he actually can cast spells like a normal magician would cast spells. It's just because he's a little kid, he has no idea how to do that yet. It's sort of like a Scarlet Witch situation in the Marvel Universe where she has this crazy power level and can seemingly do all kinds of magic without having to do the normal things that regular wizards, magicians, sorcerers do. Shazam is just like that in the DC Universe. He just hasn't figured out exactly how to tap into that ability yet. The books flapping around being semi-sentient also felt kind of like a Harry Potter reference, and as far as I know, Steve the Pen is not from the comics. They just used this to set up Billy's magical letter to Wonder Woman at the end of the movie, letting her know to come check in on them so she can save his life. The joke they play with the pen, though, is that the pen knows everything that is contained in the library, but it's only as good, like it can only give them answers that are as good as the questions that they ask. It'd be like typing in really terrible searches and questions into Google search. Like it would just give you terrible answers because your questions are bad.
Should we proofread it? Nah, Steve doesn't make mistakes, just writes what you say. Great, I feel good about this. Me too. Anyone else want a Gatorade? Do we have red?
So when the pen starts explaining things, it could have actually told them way more information, way more specific information, if they had known to ask it specific questions. Like, Pen, how do you kill Superman? The pen could tell you how to kill Superman. The sisters come for Freddy, throw him in prison with the wizard. When he meets them, he makes another Batman reference, claiming the wizard has a Batman voice. Inside the sisters' throne room, there's a statue of their father, Atlas, holding the world on his back, just like in Greek mythology, and like earlier in the movie in the museum. The fake names that Freddy gives the sisters when they ask him to name the champions, Brett Breyer or Brooke Breyer, are people that were mean to him at his school, hoping that they'll go after them for just a hot second until they figure out that it was a ruse. Oh yeah, one of the champions, he drives this Dodge pickup truck, the person that was mean to him during the first movie. When they get thrown to the dragon in the pit, the real power of the dragon is that it brings out your worst fears and turns them up to 11, making people who try to enter the Hesperides garden so terrified that they just turn around and run away. But in addition to that, it is a giant, super strong dragon that can also eat you. The Colonel Cheesesteak joke is probably a reference to a restaurant called Colonel Mustard's in Philly, which serves famous sandwiches. They make the Fast and Furious joke, which was in all the trailers. Helen Mirren, Jaimin Hansu, Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman were also in the Fast and Furious movies, and now those movies are also canon to the DC universe. It's kind of like Samuel L. Jackson playing both Nick Fury and Mace Windu in the Star Wars movies, and the Star Wars movies being canon to the MCU. So Spider-Man notices Nick Fury saying, wait a minute, you look kind of like that guy in the Star Wars movies. When they take Hespera prisoner, Darla also reveals that she thinks yellow Skittles are like the worst Skittles. They reveal their secret to the parents in the dragon attacks, which they also joke about later when Victor asks, is that the reason why lightning kept striking the house? Because you're all Shazam? Which they also pay off at the end of the movie when he hangs up the sign while they're remodeling the house saying, no Shazamming inside the house. When Calypso plants the golden apple and the tree of life starts growing, the monsters start coming out of it, we get our director David Sandberg cameo scene as he's carried away and killed. Hespera makes a reference to Hades, saying that he's their uncle. Hades is the Greek god who rules the underworld, brother to Zeus. He'd also be Wonder Woman's uncle too. The reason why the sisters fight with themselves about what to do with the apple is because Hespera and Anthea want to restore magic in their realm, like it will restore all the power of the god realm. Calypso wants to use it to destroy the earth. When they start fighting, Shazam makes a Game of Thrones Khaleesi reference because Calypso is riding a dragon just like Daenerys Targaryen was. And when he rallies, he gets a pep talk from Michael Gray, who was Billy Batson on the Shazam TV show in the 1970s. He's one of the big celebrity cameos of the movie.
Shazam!
He's also wearing a red and yellow t-shirt like Billy Batson Shazam colors. They pay off the Skittles reference with a Taste the Rainbow unicorn joke. The director actually said that they actually put a bunch of those jokes in, then they had to go to Skittles and get permission. Like, wait a minute, there are way too many Skittles references in this. We need to get permission. And after the fact, they even did a special Skittles trailer. Shazam winds up sacrificing himself to destroy the tree and the dragon, paying off the plasma ball scene earlier in the movie, and when they bury him the next day in the God Realm, Wonder Woman arrives getting his message, the God message, to reignite the God Spark in the Staff of Atlas, which the wizard uses to restore magic in the entire God Realm, causing Billy to also come back to life with his powers. Bringing the tree itself back to life also gives Anthea her powers back too. They claimed before this, though, that no gods were left, even though Anthea is still alive. I think what they meant at the time is they thought there were no more people with god powers because Anthea lost hers early in the movie. So like I said, this means that Wonder Woman still has a spark of divinity in her, a small portion of Zeus's power, because she is his biological daughter. They pay off all the jokes about Billy's obsession with Wonder Woman, trying to ask her out on a date, and her just telling him, okay kid, just worry about saving the world, and tells him to use her father's power, Zeus's power, wisely. He also tries to joke about the fact that they're not related just because part of her father is also in him. And also, he's turning 18 very soon, so he will technically be an adult. She wouldn't be going out with a minor. At the dinner scene, Anthea says she's going to spend time on Earth. She'll be going out with Freddy like they're a couple now, but she's just going to spend time amongst mortals, getting to know what culture is like now. The wizard Shazam also comes back and says that he's going to tour around the world and have fun because he was locked up in prison for so long. Also to take the staff back into safekeeping because he knows that Billy's going to do something stupid with it. You notice that Freddie Freeman is also wearing a Gremlins 2 shirt. I think this is a reference to the second Gremlins movie. And Darla is wearing a unicorn shirt for the unicorn she just got done winning over with the Skittles. If the characters come back, I'm sure they'll find a way to pay off that Taste the Rainbow joke again. They make another joke about what his name should actually be, and the wizard tells him, your name is Shazam, which I think is another callback to the idea that his name used to be Captain Marvel, but now it's Shazam. And during the actual end credits, they have the Elvis music, A Little Less Conversation, which, like I said, is a callback to the Captain Marvel Jr. persona that Elvis used to inform his whole character. Confirmed now, Elvis was a super comic book nerd. All the different credits scenes to all the drawings are meant to depict the events of the movie and the different characters and what winds up happening to the characters. You also see a page depicting Billy with all the different gods that are the source of his powers and the PlayStation controller symbols, which is another joke about him misusing the powers like a kid would just to be really awesome at video games. Then we get the post-credit scenes. There are 2 of them. I've already done a much longer video about it, but basically the first post-credit scene is Amelia Harcourt and John Economos from Peacemaker Season 1 from the Suicide Squad movie recruiting Shazam to the Justice Society, the one that we saw during the Black Adam movie, for Amanda Waller. Originally, the director David Sandberg said that they were going to have the actual Justice Society characters show up during this scene to recruit him, like Hawkman and the others would have shown up and said, hey Billy, come join the team, and they would still played it for the same joke, like when they show up and ask him to join the Justice, they don't get the sentence the full way out because he says 1,000 times yes because he wants to be on the team with Wonder Woman so bad on the Justice League. But they finish the sentence Society and he gets all pissed off, making a bunch of jokes about their naming conventions, like why would you name 2 of your teams the same thing, Justice, if they're not related at all? Giving them a couple suggestions for other potential names. One of them is the Authority Society, which is a reference to the Authority movie that James Gunn is getting ready to do. They're a Wildstorm team. Also saying the Avengers Society, which is a big Marvel reference because James Gunn also just came to become the new Kevin Feige of DC after doing all the Marvel movies, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, recently. The second post-credit scene is almost the exact same post-credit scene as the second one from the first movie, with Dr. Sivannah and Mr. Mind talking about the same thing that they talked about during the first movie. He shows up and they joke about how long it's been. It's been 2 years. Why is this taking so long, this evil plan that you're developing to take over the Magic Lands? And Mr. Mind yells at him to be patient. It takes a long time and references growing wings, getting really big, which is another comic book reference to his final boss form. There's a couple other Easter eggs during these post-credit scenes that I get into much more detail in during my post-credit scenes video, so I'll link that at the end of this. But if there are any other Easter eggs in the other parts of the movie that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. Like I said, the characters coming back in future DC movies just depends on how the movie does financially. Right now, I'm expecting them to recast, but they did leave the door open the way they explain things. Everyone click here for those Shazam Fury of the Gods post-credit scenes, and click here for my new Justice League Darkseid trailer video from Zack Snyder. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.